Some say that he has a voracious appetite for meats, and that one orgiastic feast of carnivorous proportions caused him to fall into a deep slumber, and that the watchers in the dark were nearly crushed, carrying him to the deepest recesses of the rock. All we know is that he is called the Lion. Welcome on in, members of the chapter, as well as new viewers. This is Sprues and Studs, and obviously you are here to see the second loyalist Primarch, which is Lionel Johnson, and he does not need any sort of introduction whatsoever. So this is going to be a very extensive review video, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. However, before we dive headlong into the review of Lionel Johnson, I just want to take this moment to tell you that I have, again, officially partnered up with Flimatoy to bring you your plastic crack needs. I cannot say enough about their customer service. They are awesome, and they are actually where I get all my action figures from. And I have had nothing but positive experiences with these guys. Couple benefits that you have with them is that they always get their action figures quite early. As they tell me, they are very close to the JoyToy factory, so they're the first to get delivery. And speaking of delivery, if you actually have action figures that you are ordering, like multiple action figures for instance, JoyToy will send each and every single one of these action figures out most of the time individually, so you can get already released action figures first if there are other ones that are on your pre-order list that have not been released. As you can see here, I have ordered the Lion, and obviously the Lion was released first, so Flyma actually sent me the Lion first, while the rest of the 3 action figures that I have ordered were not even released yet. And if you are interested in purchasing any action figures, just click on the link in the description below. And also do not forget to use the code SNS to receive 12% off on your purchase. So I apologize for interrupting this review video. Let's jump right on in again. So the first thing that I'm going to comment on is the packaging of this product. So I have to say that it is very hefty, and it feels like it's really nice. It's premium. So as you can see, the plastic has JoyToy on it, and this box itself is very, very nice and heavy in that it is exactly like Gilliman's box. So it's got this heavy cardboard here, and it's got these plastic seals, so you know that this is going to come sealed. And here we go. And as I said, you have to cut this part open, which is different from the rest of the regular boxes. So you have to lift the lid from the top of the box, which I'm doing right now. And we shall both see what is inside. Ooh, look at this beastly man. So this action figure is clearly packaged in styrofoam to keep everything into place. And as we lift this part off and take the plastic wrapping off, there is the Lion himself. Woo! What a figure. Off this side, we have his helmet right here, his hooded face, and then his hooded helmeted face. And then underneath should be the Watchers in the Dark. There's definitely a premium quality product and premium quality feel to this. We have a fantastic but very long review ahead of us, so let us not waste any more time and dive right into this number 2 loyalist Primarch. And what do we have here? Well, we have the grizzled face of Lionel Johnson right here, and he does not have obviously the benefit of Gilliman to be stationed in a stasis field, so he does look markedly older. But I do like this very, very wisdomy kind of look on this Primarch's face. So anyways, you have his golden locks of hair over here, and it looks like there are some highlights up top, which are nice. And then as we move on down to his very experienced face, you can see the wrinkles on his forehead as well as the wrinkles on his cheeks, denoting that he's been around for a very, very long time. And he's got a piercing stare, and it looks as if that these eyes are screened very nicely on this action figure. Now let's move on to the right pauldron, and obviously with the right pauldron, it is of a lion, and we get to see a lot of gold inlaying over here, and I'll have to say that JoyToy did a good job of translating the lion's face into plastic form. One thing I will point out is that there isn't too much shading. I would expect some shading to be in between the fur, but at least there is some shading with the eyes. Let's flip around to the other side. And when you know you have your own name emblazoned on your pauldron, you have definitely made it as a Space Marine. So clearly this says L. Johnson, and this particular section is etched into the plastic, and there is plenty of shading that is in this section. And as we look at the Dark Angel monk, or whatever you want to call him, you get to see a green robe, and it's been highlighted up light green up here, and he's wielding a red sword, and there is plenty of shading on the angel's wings. So let's move on to the center of the lion, and we get to see a heraldic shield here that boasts his namesake, another very impressive lion, couple of icons in the middle, and then finally behind all this stuff is a winged sword. Let's take a quick look at his arms, and we get to see plenty of highlighting here, which is very nice. This very bright green highlighting contrasts the Dark Angel's or Caliban green. Beneath the arm area, we get to see lighter green robes that are hanging off the power armor. And then moving on to the middle of this action figure, there is a very ornate belt with skulls on it. There is highlighting that is happening on top of the skulls. There's a very prominent silver buckle, as well as a nice little icon here at the bottom. So let's move on to the Arma Luminis. So I will have to say, unfortunately, I tried to pull this pistol out of the holster, but it appears that this is actually a fixed pistol. So all we get to see is Arma's back end. It would have been nice to see the whole entire pistol. So you can see that the pistol has a bunch of weathering that you see on all the bolt guns on the regular Primaris action figures. So let's take a look at the Primarch's lower half, and the lower half has a 1, denoting that this is indeed the first Space Marine Legion. And then there are 2 swords that are crossed on his other knee. And finally, there is a purity seal as well as a skull down here. So let's take a look at the back of the lion, and we get to see a very, very interesting looking pelt here. So on this pelt, you get to see a lot of shading that's happening in the recesses of the fur. And then there's also shading that's happening in the recesses of the paw. Now, looking at the regal green cape, there is gold embroidery that's going on the outside. You do get the Dark Angel symbol here. So there is dark green in the recesses of this cape. However, on the highest points, this is a light green, so that is nice to see. If we flip up the cape, there is just a kind of armor piece that's hanging out in the back. And another thing I failed to point out too is that there's a cool lion's tail that is hanging down over here. So that is the body of the lion. So let's move on to fealty. So unlike Arma, fealty is a fully functional sword. What I mean by fully functional is that you can pull this out of the scabbard. So let's pull it out right now. And lo and behold, we have a beautiful looking sword. So by taking a closer look at it, you get to see this interesting gradient of a light silver, gunmetal, light silver, gunmetal, light silver, and once again, gunmetal down here. There is the light blue translucent spray on the power nodes. Now in the hilt of the sword, you get to see a Dark Angel symbol here. The pommel does have a skull in it, and then the handle of it is a nice red color. So let's take a look at fealty's scabbard. And one thing that I'm going to point out is, looks like JoyToy might have screwed up. This is probably supposed to say judgment instead of jubment. So that's one thing that was probably overlooked by them. As we flip around the other side, we get to see the same thing, except there are 2 purity seals that are hanging down. Moving on to the famed Emperor's Shield, what do we see here? There is an eagle that is hanging out in the middle of this shield. You get to see a laurel up there, and the eagle is carrying, I believe, a serpent in its mouth. Unfortunately, this eagle does not have any shading that is happening with it. And around the eagle, there's actually sort of like a golden rope type of thing, which is ingrained into the plastic, which is nice because you get to see that texture. We're going to flip around to see what's going on back here. Obviously, you have the handle for the shield, and then the power nodes that power this shield too is back here. Let's put down the shield now and move on to the backpack. So with the backpack, you see sort of like a golden iron halo that's happening with the back of it. And then the backpack also is beefed up because you get to see some silver feathers that are hanging down here. It's got this golden shroud that's covering the vent portions that you typically see in the Primaris backpacks. And then you have your Dark Angel symbol in the middle. So now let's transition to the other parts of this action figure. All right, the nice thing is that JoyToy gave us plenty of ways to display the lion. And what I mean by that is, first of all, you get an option of these lovely helmeted areas here. So the first one I'm going to focus on is obviously going to be the helmeted version of the lion. And just like with any other Dark Angel, you see this massive red wing over here, and the red wing does actually have plenty of shading here. It is also highlighted up, and as you take a look at the center of the helmet, you have a golden skull. The lenses are a nice metallic red, and then you have some highlights that are happening with this helmet as well. Moving on, you get to see more of a hooded ranger kind of look. So this is the lion's hooded helmet look, and this part of the helmet does mimic the unhooded version, except that it does not have the huge wings that are happening with it, but you do get to see a lot of shading that's happening. So this is the hooded helmet version, and this is now the hooded bareheaded version. And once again, plenty of shading that's happening with the fabric, which is very nice to see. Let's move on to the scepter here. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but I know that one of the Watchers in the dark carry it. So I can tell you just by pure observation, there is a Dark Angel monk that is holding a sword, and that the wings are surrounding the Dark Angel, as you can see here. And flipping this around, you get to see a very long flowing purity seal ribbon. The last thing that we're going to look at are both of the Watchers in the dark, and this is Watcher in the dark A. You can see that this is a nice luxurious purple, and this guy is rocking an amulet that has a winged skull on it. You do actually get to see a bunch of highlights that are happening with it. And finally, on the bottom is a silver part where the Watcher in the dark's legs are. So we're going to look at the second version over here. And with the second version, this guy is rocking a golden amulet. And then you actually do get to see part of its hands. And pretty much the rest of this action figure mimics the first one. However, there is kind of like an incense lantern back here. So let's take a quick look at articulation. The Watchers in the dark cannot be articulated at all. They are static figures. So let's see what's going on with the lion. All right, now with the lion, there is a part down here that kind of mimics a McFarlane action figure, where you can kind of tilt this part back and forth, and then the head itself you can tilt. In fact, you can do a 360-degree rotation over here about this axis, and then you can actually pull this head off right here, and this clearly reveals a rounded peg that you can put the different heads on it, which I will do in a second. So let's talk about the articulation in the shoulder area. So articulation wise, you get to see this pauldron here. It's on a ball and socket joint, and this ball and socket joint does move about like this, so there's some range of movement here. However, because of the lion's cape right here, there is lots of restricting of movement, so you can actually pull this up a little bit, but you are stretching the cape, and then you can actually push it down probably to this point, because once again the cape is blocking it. You are able to get a nice lateral side-to-side motion, as you can see right here. And then the elbows do bend at 90 degrees, with this being the maximum point of bending. and this is the maximum you can do with the front. So about the forearm area, you cannot pivot this 360 degrees because of this wire, so there's some inhibition as well. And the wrist area is also 360 degrees with some sort of lateral motion, as you can see here. About the torso area, you can spin him around 360 degrees without a problem. And then moving all this fabric aside, you get to kick out the lion's feet this far up and this far back, and there is a lot of resistance just because of all the plastic that's going on here. With the knee area, this is the maximum you can bend forward, and this is about the maximum you can bend backwards right here. So it is a double jointed knee, but like I said, there is a lot of resistance from the fabric. With the ankle area, there's a decent amount of wobble, so you can stabilize the lion. There is also a little bit of motion that you can get for stabilization on the front of his toe. So now let's move on to the final thing for this review, which is the replacement of Johnson's head. As you saw earlier, I was able to just pull this out very easily, and this is also very soft plastic, as you can see me bend. And then all you need to do is take the other helmet that you have chosen and just plop it right on top, and it clicks right in place. So that is the in-depth review of this action figure. Time to wrap this one up. So what is there to love about this action figure? I think pretty much almost everything there is to love. So a couple things that I wanted to point out that are definitely highlights for me literally is the lion's face. I love how much age that he has on his face, and he looks like he has a ton of wisdom about him as he has woken up over the course of, you know, a few 10,000 years. And then I really love how the armor is highlighted, and there is a fantastic contrast between the Caliban green and the light green for the highlights. And what else is there to say except that all the different line adornments really help this action figure jump out. And then the contrast also between the green and the gold is fantastic as well. And looking at the weapons of this action figure, I really like how fealty looks. The scabbard is a beautiful scabbard, and I love it how the scabbard is functional in that you can pull the sword out of the scabbard, and the sword itself is also a beautiful piece of workmanship. The only slight issue that I have with this action figure, and it's a very slight gripe, I would have appreciated if JoyToy would have allowed us to pull that pistol out of the holster. It would have made for a more complete action figure than it is right now. So the $130, $150 USD question is, should you get this action figure? Well, this is kind of a no-brainer in that, yeah, I believe that you should get this action figure. There is a lot of premium quality feel that you get from the packaging. The box is a thick cardboard. When you open it up, it feels luxurious. JoyToy has definitely pulled all the stops out developing this action figure. And plus, who can resist the call of a Primarch? These guys are central to the Warhammer 40K saga and story, and you obviously will need to get this action figure. So this is Sprues and Studs. Thank you for tuning into this action figure review. I hope you enjoyed this in-depth look. Thank you, members of the chapter, for always tuning into these action figure review. Your support is very, very much appreciated. And for new viewers, please consider subscribing to this channel if this is the type of action figure review that you want to see. And with that being said, I will see you all in the next one.